At the time of this recording, it is October 20th, 2020, on a Tuesday evening, a day after the Arizona Cardinals beat the Dallas Cowboys 38-10. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rock Bottom.
Woo! It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's the
Yes, people, this is the Arizona Cardinals versus Dallas Cowboys review on a Tuesday evening. It's episode 178 of the Bubba Let Sports podcast. Bubba Bunch, if you've been here a long time, you've seen me go off on the Cowboys. You've seen me have my good days, a lot of bad days, especially the last year and a half. And I think the one episode that really comes to mind when we think about the Cowboys is the good, bad, and the ugly. I forget what episode that actually was, but it was after the Jets game. And that is the most listened to episode I've ever had on this podcast. And it still is from this to this day. To this day. And I think this might actually take the cake. I don't know what I'm going to name it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going off the dome. Because I've had a lot of thoughts this last 24 hours, and I don't know what to think anymore. Like, I don't want to ever be that guy that wants to go for the headline, that wants to go for the bait, and make people think like, oh, he's just saying that to get views and all that. I'm not that type of guy. I literally go into it and say, how can I back this up? How can I say this makes sense? And I've reached a point to where none of it makes sense. It's just happening. And this is rock bottom. I thought rock bottom was the week after the Amari Cooper trade from Oakland. At the time, they were in Oakland for the Raiders. They traded him. They traded him for a first-round pick. And everyone freaked out because they're like, oh, my God, it's a first-round pick. How can we give up that for Amari Cooper? Has drops problems. He's not even one of the greatest receivers in the league. And they went up against the Tennessee Titans on a Monday night, coincidentally. And I remember being at that game for my birthday and thinking, there is 50,000 people in this stadium right now, and it is dead silent. And it is the worst offensive showing I've ever seen from the Cowboys. But honestly, this might be worse. And the fact that the defense is worse, that the coaching is worse, it boggles my mind. But there are so many things I want to go through. And I don't even think we should even talk about the game yesterday. I don't think we should even consider the fact that like maybe it's just a one-off thing and it was just a bad matchup. No. For that first half, Kellen Moore probably played the worst half of football he's ever played. And he ended with nine completions. Nine out of 24. And yet he still balled out because he did a lot of the running, like a lot of design runs. I mean, he found his receivers when he needed to, and really he should have found them even more throughout the night. But they were off in the first half. They were definitely off in the first half, but you only have to be better than the Cowboys, and that's not taking a lot. But watching that football team last night, there are only a few occasions where I've said, I don't want to watch this football team. I don't want to watch them. I love the Cowboys to the day I die. I love this football team. This is one of the reasons why I do this podcast. And the reason why I do so many of my episodes on the podcast because of them. Because my love for the Dallas Cowboys will never go away. It'll never disappear. I'll always find a way to love them at the end of the day. But they're making it really fucking hard as of late. You know, let's say the 2015 season where they went 2-14, was it? Or 4-12? I always mix up the numbers, but it was a Matt Castle year. I mean, they were just terrible. And I didn't watch them for like half the season because I didn't want to. Last year, I didn't watch most of the Bears game. And in this game, this game really, I gave up after the first interception by Andy Dalton. So I said, look, if they come out flat in the second half and they don't do anything on their first drive, because they did get the ball back first in the second half, and they don't do anything with it, then, hey, Mom, we're going to watch something else. We're going to enjoy our night because this ain't it. And that's exactly what happened. After that interception, I swear, I watched the first replay of that interception, and they said, oh, it should have been a pass. I turned it off. I didn't care. I really didn't care because that's exactly how the Cowboys season is going. And it's like, you can complain all you want, but we all know that for them to be in that situation, put themselves in that situation, should have never happened. They should have never been down that much to a good but not great Arizona Cardinals team. And you know I like the Cardinals a lot. And I thought no matter what, even if Dak was in that football game, and best case scenario, because it was before the season even started, I said this game was going to be a real struggle for the Dallas Cowboys, and I thought the Cardinals could upset them. But it wasn't an upset. It wasn't an upset at all. This was a dominant factor of a game by the Arizona Cardinals. I wouldn't say a must-win, but it was a showing of what they're capable of. And I said it in the preview. If you haven't checked that out, I put clips of it on Twitter and on Instagram. I said Christian Kirk was going to have a great day. I thought the running game was going to be amazing. And Kyler Murray is going to have a field day with this defense. And I was like, about Andy Dalton. You know, I felt like if their game plan was to go with Zeke and to run it on first down every single time, and that's the only way they can establish their dominance on offense, then they're set up for failure. And every single one of those things happened. All the things that could have gone wrong for the Cowboys did. And Christian Kirk ended with like 86 yards on 2 receptions, but 2 touchdowns. Chase Edmonds and, the whole trio of Murray, Edmonds, and Kenyon Drake. Drake ended with 164 yards, so let alone him way above the marker that I thought they would have as far as 150 yards rushing. He did that by himself, and they ended with like over 226, 220. I forget the number. I'm not even looking at stats. This is just all off my head. They made a dominant performance out of the Dallas Cowboys. And so we go into the reports. Jane Slater reports earlier today that an unnamed Cowboys player said that the coaching staff aren't good at their jobs, and I quote. Another player said the coaches are totally unprepared. They don't teach. They don't have any sense of adjusting on the fly. You could have said that about Jason Garrett for the last 10 years, but guess what? It's about Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan. Mike McCarthy came out and said after the game that this was the best preparation the Cowboys have had all season, which is a scary thought, and it sounds exactly like Jason Garrett, and I am so sad. This is where it comes down to, people. This is where it comes down to what's next. Because Washington football team's next. And I look at the rest of the schedule, and I'm seeing loss after loss against any other team out of the division. The Cowboys are still in first place in this division. That's not saying much. But looking at these Washington football team games, Eagles games, Giants games, I'm saying at the beginning of the season, I was like, those are done deals. They may lose 1 or 2. I think they lose 1 to the Eagles, and maybe they get upset by the Giants or Washington football team. Maybe once. Maybe. But I think a definite Eagles loss, and then from there it's an upset between the Eagles and the Giants. But they still win the division pretty decisively. Now that's out the window. That is completely out the window. I think this team, I don't think any team out of that division deserves to be in the playoffs. Absolutely not. They won't do anything in these playoffs. This is not a 9-7 Giants team from 2011 or, in that first season where Eli went to the Super Bowl where they were 9-7 as well. This is not that case. This is not where they did all right to get by, but once they get to the playoffs, it's a whole different ballgame. No, these are your football teams. These are what the Eagles Washington football team, the Giants, and the Cowboys are. They are miserable, embarrassing football teams that are a disgrace to the NFL. An absolute disgrace to the NFL. So no team deserves to get through. And right now, the Cowboys are in front. And right now, they are probably in the worst position out of anybody in that division. Because we have a Jason Garrett scenario once again in Dallas. And you have players coming out and saying they don't know how to coach. They don't know how to do their jobs. You lost the locker room at that point. Now, how many players are feeling that way? I don't know. This is just a rumor, and this is reported by Jane Slater. Jane Slater is a phenomenal analyst and reporter for the Dallas Cowboys, so I trust her in a lot of things that she says. She knows his football team better than anyone, really, in the NFL. And for her to come out with this and just put it out, to the public, it says a lot. Because even in the 10 years of Jason Garrett, no player really has come out and said they don't know what they're doing. It showed on the field, but it never came out as a rumor or report. And I think this season, with all the expectations of going to Super Bowl, being a Super Bowl favorite, and ultimately being one of the most talked about teams in the offseason, based on what they did in the offseason with free agency, the draft, and what they had last year, transitioning into this year, and finally getting away from that Jason Garrett era, it was a whole new Dallas Cowboys team in their minds. Like, this was not the Cowboys team of the last 20 years. This was, maybe this can go back to the 90s, because now they have a coach that can actually coach, a coach that can actually bring in and discipline these guys, that can bring some maturity and stop all the dumb things that shoot themselves in the foot. Now they can stop doing that. And now they have a new scheme defensively, because the Rod Marinelli one just wasn't going to work. And through the first few weeks, I'm saying this is exactly the same team that we saw last year. This is the same exact team we've seen for the last 10 years. And Dak Prescott is the only positive coming out of this football team. Well, now with Dak out, with the broken ankle, I said, this is the football team. This is what the Cowboys are going to be. No excuses anymore. There's nothing you can say to me going into this football game against the Cardinals that says, oh, well, maybe there is some hope. Maybe there is some optimism, and they just need Dak back. And once they do get him back, they'll be fine. I didn't care what Andy Dalton did. I didn't care what Andy Dalton did on the stat sheet or if they lost this game. I said, as long as you're disciplined and you play for Dak and you show me hustle, you show me that you care, that's what I want. That's what I've been wanting. I want a 60-minute football team. I don't want a up and down, peaks and valleys type of team. I need 60 minutes. Either you're 60 minutes bad or you're 60 minutes good. Give me 60 minutes. Don't give me this BS of like, oh, we tried on the first drive, but we really didn't care after that. Like, no, like you go in preparation-wise and you say, we're doing this for 4. We're doing this for Dak. And you put up that performance on Monday night. This is the worst football team I have ever seen in Dallas Cowboys history. And that is including the 2015 team. This is including like the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, even late 2000s teams. This is the worst football team I have ever seen in my life. And that pains me to say. But this is the worst football team I have ever seen. And dear God, where do we go from here? This is where I get into, I don't want to do clickbaits. I don't want to do, overreactions. I said during the game last night, fire Mike Nolan. It's not working. It's a relationship that makes sense on paper. Your compatibility is like 80%, so you give it a shot. And the first date, maybe not the best, but it's not the worst you've been on, so you see how it works out. You're attracted to each other, but at the end of the day, it just doesn't work. Your personalities are just different. This scheme isn't working. The scheme is not being absorbed by this team. The defensive line is absolutely horrible, and you should get rid of every single one of those guys. The linebackers, Leighton Vander Esch just keeps getting hurt. Jalen Smith just isn't the same anymore. He did play well last night, and he has been playing well in the last 2 weeks. But it takes more than one guy. It takes a village. No matter if you bring back Sean Lee and Randy Gregory, I don't know if that's going to help at all. And your secondary, who knows that they cannot give up the big play, gives up the big play anyways. And Trevon Diggs, if you take out everybody from this team, you keep Trevon Diggs, you keep maybe Aldon Smith, maybe you keep Justin Thompson, who actually played a few snaps last night. You keep some of those guys that have given you something. Other than that, you get rid of all of them. You get, like, how embarrassing is it that Jim Tomsula can't do anything with this defensive line? Jim Tomsula is a mastermind on the defensive line. He can't do anything with it. Al Lindquist and Al Harris, and Marcus Lindquist just don't know how to coach their secondary. And then Mike Nolan, who was doing the exact same thing he did in 2015 with the San Francisco 49ers when he was the last time he was a defensive coordinator, is putting up the same exact things. He's consistent, but in the wrong way. I wanted progress. I wanted to see week by week by week. I know you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. But if you go into every week and say, all right, we're improving on the pass rush. We're improving in the secondary play. We're not giving them the big plays. We'll give up yardage. We'll give up all these yards. But when it comes down to the red zone, where it's going to be really hard for you to score, then we're not going to break. When your scheme is fit to bend, don't break, but you break all the time, then the system's fucked. The system is broken. The scheme is broken. So it just doesn't work. Mike Nolan needs to get out of there. Kellen Moore, he shows glimpses of me, like, loving him. Like, I love what Kellen Moore does on certain situations. And some of the plays that he runs, I'm like, thank you. Like, that's what I need. But some of those times, and majority of those times, I'm saying, why are you running that same play? Why are we running a screen pass that the receivers can't block, whether they can't block or they get an illegal block in the back? It doesn't work 3 out of 5 times, yet you keep running it because you think that the one time you got 5 yards, it's going to break into 40 yards. It's not going to work when the defense knows what you're running. And when you're running on 1st and 10 on the first play of the game, and you get nothing out of it because there's 8 people in the box and the Cardinals are showing blitz, and yet you run the same play. You run the 1st down and 10 run up the middle with a broken offensive line that cannot protect you in any sort of way. That is beyond Kellen Moore and should be fireable offenses. But then you look at Mike McCarthy, who said he did not coach well in this game. Discipline, hustle, confidence, and overall just management of the game is Jason Garrett-like and maybe even worse. Maybe even worse, which is hard to say from a guy that's won a Super Bowl. They made a guy that's won a Super Bowl look like one of the worst coaches in the NFL. I am just so frustrated with the fact that nothing's changing. You can buy all the free agents you want. You can draft all the great players you want. And you can push off the Dak Prescott contract all you want because the salary cap is an issue. When you have the Chiefs signing Le'Veon Bell, when you get Patrick Mahomes signing a 12-year extension for $500 million, you got Travis Kelce signing an extension, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Tyrann Mathieu, you got all these guys on defense that need money, and yet they make it work. But salary cap is an issue in Dallas, apparently. So Mike Nolan needs to leave. Kellen Moore is probably going to have to go as well. All the coaching staff that Mike McCarthy brought in was probably going to have to go. And Mike McCarthy is probably done. Once you lose that locker room, you're not getting them back. Look at the New York Jets. Do you think that Adam Gase has the locker room? No. Yet he's still there. So is it going to change? No. So why keep him there? I usually give a coach 2 to 3 years. And if a 2 to 3 year margin, you don't do anything with it, then I feel like it's good to say, it's time to go. There's only rare occasions where I say, within a season, you give up. You say it just doesn't work. Freddie Kitchens last year, what's another good example from the last couple of years? I thought Vance Joseph was pretty bad. I can't. Oh, Pat Shurmur was really bad. But even then, I would have given him like another year. I think Adam Gase, Pat Shurmur, Freddie Kitchens is probably the perfect example for this. And it's so hard to say because Mike McCarthy and Freddie Kitchens are just not at all same coach. And one's won a Super Bowl, one's not even had a head coaching job before it. Like, it's just completely contrast of comparisons. But I'm saying the way that it's going right now, you don't have a hold of this football team, and you never will. When you have players coming out and saying, it's not working. You don't know how to coach. If you don't know how to coach, why let them coach? So Mike McCarthy needs to go. And it's tough to say because I like Mike McCarthy. I thought he came in with good intentions. I think that documentary and all the interviews prior to him signing with the Cowboys, and even right after signing with the Cowboys, I thought that what was shown was going in the right direction. I thought that in the long term it would take a little bit because you can't just say Super Bowl or bust in their first season. It's not going to happen. But there was no excuses for undisciplined play. There's no excuses for bad play on the field and inconsistent play. That needs to go. If I see progress, I'm fine. I'm not seeing progress. So step one, gone. Like the one thing that I wanted you to do in your first year, it's not happening after 6 weeks of football. So you need to go. But right now, the Cowboys are cursed. And I'm not trying to be like that weird Cowboys fan where it's like, oh, the NFL is rigging everything. You know, the bad ref plays, like they're not calling anything. It's just they're cursed. It's like ever since they got rid of blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not that. They have Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones running this football team, and that's the curse right there. Until they leave the Cowboys organization, which will never happen, this Cowboys team will never win. They will never win another Super Bowl under Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Because look at everything that has gone wrong in this season. And I know a part of the blame should go to the NFL for no preseason, for really bad management of COVID and the plan for that, and the injuries have piled up because of that. When you look at bad coaching, the lack of coaching, the lack of adjustment, this sounds a lot like Jason Garrett. Who kept Jason Garrett around for 10 years? Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. Who is not managing this football team at all this season, saying, you got to step up. You got to coach better. Because Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are always at practices, always at scrimmages, and they always want to talk to the media about how it's going. And they want to have the spotlight on the Dallas Cowboys. You have a front row seat at how Mike McCarthy and Mike Nolan are coaching this football team on a daily basis. And every single week, every single day of this season, you have said, we like our guys, we like how it's going. Just be patient. Through 6 weeks of football, other than the Jets, the Cowboys are the worst football team in the NFL. Hands down. I don't care what you say. This is one of the worst football teams in the NFL. You can put the NFC East as one just one big team. And it's the Jets, then there's the NFC East. Put them in whatever order you want to. But I feel like the Cowboys are right there. So you say, after every week, it's fine, we're going to be fine, we like our guys. You have made no adjustments, you have made no transactions outside of free agents, or outside of this team with free agency. You see guys like David Irving, Earl Thomas, Eric Reed, Snacks Harrison, and you're like, nah, we're good. Nah, we're fine. And then you look at what's interior, and you see the play of Dontari Poe, Everson Griffin, Chidobe Awuzie, Jordan Lewis, even that offensive line with Terrence Steele, Connor Williams, and you see all the banged up guys on that offensive line, and then you pass on Dak Prescott's contract because you're like, nah, he's good for the next year. We just couldn't get a deal done because he's asking for too much. But then you go out and you want to give Amari Cooper 5 years for $100 million, and really, has he lived up to it in half a year? Absolutely not. He's nowhere near it. And it doesn't look right with Amari Cooper. And then you look at the defensive line. You look at the linebackers. You look at the injuries across the defense. And you say, nah, we're fine. Okay. All right, you're just oblivious to the fact. But then you look at the coaching and you see your players frustrated. You see your players unmotivated. And you have players coming out and saying, we don't want him here. They don't know how to coach. We're so unprepared. But your coach is saying, we're the most prepared we've been all season. There is a disconnect there, and you're not noticing that. So how can I believe in this football team when the owner doesn't know his own team? He sees this on a daily basis, but he's so blinded by the money, by all the sales of the CeeDee Lamb jerseys, of the Dak Prescott messages and the jerseys being sold of Dak Prescott. And you're seeing all the attention that you're getting on NFL Network and ESPN of how bad can this football team be, and are they still Super Bowl contenders? You still got the attention of the NFL and all the fans. So you're fine. The money's still coming in. But when that money goes down, that's when you get involved. That's when you say, Jason Garrett's not our guy anymore after 10 years of bad football, of embarrassing football. But what doesn't make sense to me is that, like, this won't change. Like, this isn't going to change in a day. No matter what coach, no matter what players come in to the Dallas Cowboys organization, you can bring in Bill Belichick to this football team. And if you try to run it the same way you've done with Mike McCarthy, with Jason Garrett, post Jimmy Johnson, it's going to fail. Because you have such a disconnect with your players, with your coaches, that you just see the money. You just see that the Cowboys are still afloat. They're still being talked about. It doesn't matter what coach is going to come in from this point forward, guys. It's going to fail. Because Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones are running this football team. And when that's gone, we can start a new path. We can start a new journey with this football team. But until then, it's fucked. It's absolutely fucked. And I'm trying to be very careful because one day I want to work for the Cowboys. I want to be a reporter. I want to be an analyst. But it's just the truth. It's the reality. It's the reality from day one of Mike McCarthy that if he doesn't get control of this team, if he doesn't get what's the right word for it? I mean, if he doesn't get the allowance to run this football team, then there's no point. There was no point in signing Mike McCarthy, who was a great guy that has good intentions. And Jason Garrett's the same exact way. He had good intentions. He wanted to win. But there's no way you can win when you have an owner that is just so encapsulated with running this football team his way. Why would you be a part of that? Why would you want to be a part of this football team? Why would you want to cheer for this football team? You don't. You don't at the end of the day. So right now, what I'm saying, panic button. I'm saying get rid of all the coaches. I'm saying get rid of all those bad players that have played terribly this season and are an embarrassment to the star on their helmet. But I want something like can we have an agreement across owners that, as a football fan, I'm just losing English right now. As a fandom, where we kick off Jerry Jones, Stephen Jones from this team, can we just pay for the football team ourselves, like we're the Green Bay Packers? Can we have an ownership across the Dallas Cowboys? Because I'll pay my efforts, because I want to see Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones gone. I don't want to hear anything from Jerry. I don't want to hear anything from Stephen. When they think it's a good move, I will think the complete opposite from this point forward. But right now, nothing's being done. Nothing is changing in Dallas. And you lost the football team. You lost the locker room. Those Cowboys players, not all of them, should be there. But at the end of the day, when you have players coming out and saying this is a bad football team and we're not coached at all, the season's doomed. Who cares about a divisional title? Who cares about winning a football game? Win the locker room. Win a practice. Like, go a day without drama. Go a day where it's successful as a football team. But when you have that disconnect from owner to coach and coach to players, you're done. You're done. You're absolutely done. And there's no fixing that. So until that is fixed, until Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones leave, which will never happen, until they die, this football team is going to die. This team is not America's team anymore. This team has no legacy anymore. This team is an embarrassment to football. And I am sad to say that I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm going to say I'm a Cowboys fan because at the end of the day, that's just how I am. I am sad to be a Cowboys fan, and it's an embarrassment to be a team, a fan of this team. So where do we go from here? By the way, I didn't even mention that we have, I'm just going to read this from the New York Post. NBC sports analyst and former Colts coach Tony Dungy was under social media fire for his tone-deaf reaction to Dak Prescott's horrifying compound ankle fracture suffered on Sunday. This was right after the Browns game. Oh, no, not... Is this the Browns game? No, this was not the Browns game. I'm dumb. This was after the Giants game. I'm sorry. This is from Tony Dungy. As tough as this is for Dak Prescott, it might be a blessing in disguise for the Dallas Cowboys. They've got a good veteran quarterback that can make some plays that might cause them to get back to their old formula, lean back to the running game, lean back to Ezekiel Elliott, help the defense out by controlling the ball. You still got wide receivers, and Andy Dalton's going to make some plays with those receivers. Emmanuel Acho also said that Andy Dalton is better for the Cowboys than Dak Prescott is. Should I say more? Because how can you have the running game be successful when you have an offensive line that is filled with undrafted free agents and cannot protect the outside whatsoever? For Dak, Andy Dalton, you can even throw in Tony Romo into that mix. It ain't happening. Zack Martin is out with a singer and a concussion, and he's on concussion protocol for the Washington game. It's not good. It's not good at all. So your offensive line is consisted of Brandon Knight, who played really bad football last night, Connor Williams, who I've given up a long time ago, Tyler Biadasz, who is probably the most promising guy out of all of them, but still needs time to grow. Whoever's in that right guard, Connor McGovern, maybe. And then you have Terrence Steele, who somehow is still a starter on this football team. And yet they somehow passed on Ronald Leary. And they're not getting back any of those guys, except for Zack Martin, maybe next week. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott, who fumbled twice and has the career high 5 fumbles in the season. And I mean, it's really disappointing to see. I was arguing that Ezekiel Elliott was probably going to have the best season of his career because of the first 2 games of this season. He looked like a whole new Ezekiel Elliott. He was ready. He was hungry. And he just played with such hustle that I was like, wow, I haven't seen this guy since rookie season, Zeke. And then he starts fumbling. And he starts fumbling again. After the first few fumbles, I'm like, okay, this happened last season, it happened the year prior, but he fixed it. And then he keeps fumbling, and then he keeps fumbling, and he keeps losing these fumbles because of just basic fundamental football of not taking care of the football. And that's just undisciplined play. And then Tony Pollard comes out, and he plays better than Zeke did in the last 3 weeks. He shows hustle, he shows effort, he tries to get that extra yardage that Zeke doesn't get, that he doesn't want to do. He goes to the sideline instead of getting the extra 4 or 5 yards by punching it in. And then he doesn't fumble like Zeke does. So, of course, Zeke is going to get benched, as he should. And right now, Ezekiel Elliott is a disappointment, is an absolute disappointment in my eyes. I am ashamed by how bad Ezekiel Elliott's playing. I love Zeke to death. He is one of my favorite players that I have ever watched in my lifetime. I'm embarrassed to watch him play. And that offensive line is not doing him any better. And let's not even get started on Andy Dalton. Let's just not. Because everyone expected him to be the greatest backup quarterback of all time. And if he got a chance, they would be fine. There's a reason why they gave up on him in Cincinnati. There's a reason why he's a backup quarterback. It's because of what he did on Monday night. Just sad football. Absolutely sad football. And that defense, geez, I've said enough. I've said enough about this football team. It's absolutely horrible. Disappointment, embarrassing is an understatement. There's so many more synonyms that I could use, but it's just done. I'm so done with this football team. I've given up on this football team. I really have. It took me so long to get prepared for this episode because I don't want to do it. I don't want to do previews and reviews for this team because it's the same thing every week. Why should I do a film session on them every single week when it's the exact same football team? It's the exact same football team. And until something changes in the front office, nothing's going to change. You can put in the greatest head coach of all time. You can put in fucking Vince Lombardi with this Cowboys team, but Jerry Jones will find a way to fuck it up. So until that changes, nothing will change, and it's going to be an embarrassment to watch this football team for the rest of the season. Do I think they're going to win against the Washington football team? No. Do I think they're going to beat the Eagles? I don't even want to watch that game. That is the toilet bowl. That is the worst football game. I'd rather watch the Dolphins versus the Jets. I'd rather watch Jets games than the Cowboys games right now. It is sad. Absolutely sad. We're done. We're done. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked? Now do you keep it classy?